Welcome to Inspiring Nations with Sonja Keeve Radio Show, an affiliate of Creative Broadcasting and TALK Radio TV Network LLP. Question: where do you draw your inspiration? Join us as we feature women from across the globe with incredible stories of how they inspire nations every day. Now, here is your host, Sonja Keeve.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Inspiring Nations, an affiliation of Creative Broadcasting and Talk Radio TV LLP. I am your host, Sonja Keeve, and I am so excited to come to you today with a special message. We're going to do something a little different. Usually I have guests that come onto my show, but today I was feeling like a special message I wanted to share with my listening audience. First, I'd like to say thank you so much to all of our listeners for tuning in every week and supporting Inspiring Nations with Sonja Keeve. It is truly an humbling experience for me, and it's also my honor to come to you and serve you in any capacity that I can. And so today we're kind of going to talk about a special topic entitled Moving Forward. And so as I was thinking about what I wanted to bring to you all, I thought about this amazing quote I found by an unknown author, and it states, as we're talking about this whole piece of moving forward, the first step towards getting somewhere is to decide that you are not going to stay where you are. Let me repeat that. In this season of moving forward, I like to quote, the first step towards getting somewhere is to decide that you are not going to stay where you are. And I hope that you are really thinking about that and thinking about where you kind of are in your life right now, whether it's from a professional standpoint or whether it's from a personal standpoint. We all have moments in our life where we get knocked down, where a setback just really pulls us back and gets us into this space, into this headspace where we feel like it's over, that, you know what, I've messed up, I can't move forward. And so I can attest personally to moments in my life when I felt just like that and feeling stuck, feeling like, you know what, I don't know if I can even move forward. And in my heart, I knew that I was equipped with all the tools that I needed to move forward. But it's your mind that paralyzes you, because it did for me, and it puts you into the state of fear simply because in the moments where you think you've messed up, you can't move forward because you don't know what's on the other side. And so for those that are listening and tuning in live today, you know, I want to just encourage you and also challenge you to reset your mind right now. You have to allow yourself to shift the way you used to think. And I know that that's hard sometimes for some people because it is so easy to stay in places that keep us bounded and bound in our head and bound in our life. But what I want you to know is that in order to move forward, you've got to have that shift of mindset. That's really the first place that it has to begin. We can believe with all of our heart all of the things that we know we need to move forward. But if your mind is not in alignment with what your heart feels, you won't move forward. So some of you may be saying right now that are listening, well, I want to move forward. I've made this mistake, but, you know, I'm too young. I don't know everything. Or maybe I'm just too old. Maybe, you know, I've missed my moment. Maybe I've missed the time to be able to move forward. You know, I've made too many mistakes. But what I know for sure is that in those moments where you really start to feel that, you start to feel down on yourself, if you so desire to have a change in your life whatever that may be, then let me tell you, then I would invite you to say that your story has yet to be written. If you're listening to the sound of my voice right now, your story is not yet written. Forget about what has happened to you in the past. If you are alive, breathing, and well right now, then guess what? You have the ability to move forward. So as we're talking about moving forward, and for those that are joining us, my name is Sonja Keeve, and you are listening to Inspiring Nations. And we are talking about this whole idea of what does it mean to move forward. And so how does one move forward? Well, step one. And before I go further, these are just my personal opinions of my life experiences on this earth for 40-plus years. I know I'm probably aging myself, but I also wanted to give reference and context for our listening audience that through my life experiences, these are the things that I have learned and want to share and hope to inspire you to move into your greatness by teaching you how you can move forward. So the first step in moving forward is you first have to forgive yourself and others. Now, I can tell you that's one of the toughest places to be, because when you have been hurt or betrayed by others, it hardens your heart. And so it is so hard sometimes to forgive. You know, we hear the saying, you know, I forgive, but I won't forget. But what I have found that even when we say that, sometimes we really haven't forgiven. Yeah, we don't forget what has happened to us, but sometimes we don't fully operate in forgiving others, because when you do that, remember the forgiveness isn't just for you. The forgiveness is so that you can release everything that's been holding you in that anger, in that period where you can't move forward. But when you learn to open up your heart and speak out of your mouth, I forgive you, I forgive myself, it releases what I like to think, this feeling of having the aha moment of letting everything go. Just like imagine right now that, you know, if you were, you know, wrapped in a tight blanket and couldn't move, and then all of a sudden you cut the ropes that have the blanket wrapped around you, and then you can finally let your arms go. You can breathe in and out readily, easily. Well, that's kind of what forgiveness does. It kind of allows you to exhale and release all the things that have kept you angry, that have kept you upset, that have kept you where you've taken the offense, where somebody has betrayed you, and then it allows you to just move forward. And when we don't forgive others and we don't even forgive ourselves, you know, it's a terrible burden to hold on to, and we punish ourselves. You know, have you ever experienced, you know, let me just ask, you know, have you ever experienced where maybe you've made a mistake in the past, and then the people that you run with and the circles that you're a part of, they tend to keep reminding you of your past. Like they'll say things like, I remember when you used to be this way, or I remember when you used to do these things, or I remember how it used to be. Well, remember, the key word is used to be. And you don't have to be that person that you used to be. When you forgive, and you forgive yourself first, you can move from those places where people try to keep you in your past, because you're trying to move forward. And, you know, I find that misery loves company, right? And so in those moments where you start to see and recognize that the people that used to roll with you or used to hang with you keep reminding you of your past, that's an opportunity for you to say, you know what, I need to move forward, and I have to release you, release this relationship, release this situation, because I can't move forward in the things that I want to do because you keep bringing me back to my past. And I don't want you to think that in order to ever move forward, you've got to stay in your past. One of the things that I've learned, what's done is done. And so you've got to move forward, but you can't do that when you never forgive. And so if you are right now listening to the sound of my voice and you know that there's some things that you need to be forgiven for that you've done, or you need to forgive others for how they've hurt you, I want you to practice over this next week learning to forgive. Now, I will tell you, it is not something that is easy. It is not something that happens overnight. Sometimes just being in a quiet space and maybe doing an exercise, like I always talk about doing what's called a mirror exercise. And that mirror exercise requires for you to stand in front of a mirror, and whomever has hurt you, whatever thing you need to be forgiven for, say to yourself, speak your name and say, I forgive you for. And then start to speak out of your mouth all of the things that you need to be forgiven for. And the more you do it, the more you practice that. Do it for 7 times and do it for 7 days. Because the thing that I know for sure, when you do something every day over a 21-day period, it becomes a habit. And once you begin to do that thing as a habit, then you can take the next step and move forward by forgiving others. And sometimes that can strengthen you to be able to go to that person and say, I forgive you. Sometimes also it may require for you to just say out loud into the universe, if it's so hard to say it directly to that person, and say, I forgive this person for whatever the offense will be. So that was step 1 of how you can move forward. Step 2, how you can move forward: surround yourself with people who help elevate you to the places and spaces that bring you absolute joy. I cannot tell you how many times I have had situations where I've had to walk away from certain people and connect to the right people so that I could feel joy, so that I could realize the gifts and the potential that I had, that, I am not my last mistake. And so I always say, surround yourself with people who support you, who love you, who celebrate you. We don't do that enough. We tend to stay in places that feels comfortable, right? And in order to move forward, sometimes you've got to get into a place of being uncomfortable. And in that place of being uncomfortable, what it allows to happen in your life, it stretches you. And it allows you to grow, and it allows you to elevate, and it allows you to be open to receive and connect with new people that maybe you aspire to want to be like someday, or maybe you just love their spirit about them. You just love being in their company, or just the fact that you have this commonality that just speaks to you, that helps you to feel more happy, to feel joyful in the things that you're doing. And so truly figure out how you can do that by being around people who will celebrate you. Because sometimes in life, we outgrow people. When you get to certain seasons in your life, people come into your life, and I'm sure you've heard the saying, that people come into our lives for seasons, reasons, and lifetimes. And so in those moments, you've got to recognize the season that you're in. If you're in a season right now where you're in a moment of despair, where you're feeling like, I don't even know how to move forward, sometimes it just requires you to recognize well, what's happening in my life right now? Sometimes we have to assess that. So if whatever season you're in, figure out if you're not really operating in total joy, then figure out how can I move on. Maybe it requires for you to say, maybe I have just outgrown this group of people, and it's okay, because sometimes we have to move forward when we've outgrown the past. And so I've learned in my life I've had to surround myself in different circles, and that's okay, because there are certain things in my life that I'm looking to achieve. There's certain things and relationships and people that I want to connect with, but I can't do that if I keep running with the same people who aren't going anywhere, who aren't doing anything in their life, or just simply just grumpy. Maybe I just need to move on to a new space. And when you can recognize those seasons in your life, figure out what's happening and then move forward. Step 3, in order to move forward, you must stop living your life based on the expectations and opinions of others. Now, this was a big one for me, because in my past, I was the type of individual that was the people pleaser. I just wanted to connect with people because I simply wanted to belong. But ladies and gentlemen, there is a danger with doing that. There is a danger with forcing yourself to be in cliques where people don't even respect you, where people don't even want to be around you, who only want you around as long as you serve their needs. And that was a big one for me. And for my younger listeners who are listening, like my younger people that are like in their, from like 18 to 25, that's usually the time where you really start to develop lifelong friendships. But sometimes in that period, you still want to stay what's comfortable and you want to stay with those certain friends. But deep down inside, if they don't align to your core values of where you're trying to go, sometimes you have to say goodbye to them. And so I had to do that and stop worrying about what people thought of me. I learned as long as you are true to who you are, learning to be kind, learning to walk in love, learning to be respectful. Stop worrying about what other people say about you, because a lot of times, you hear it all the time, haters are going to hate. Sometimes people don't want to elevate you because they see the deficiency in themselves, so they want you to stay in the same place that they're at. And so I had to learn that, it doesn't matter what people think of me. As long as I continue to walk in love, as long as I continue to be who I was equipped to be, the right people will connect with me. The right relationships will grow with me. And I'll continue to move into those spaces and places that bring me absolute joy. And I can tell you, it took me over 40 years to figure that out, because I grew up with this sense that you had to get in where you fit in. You had to cultivate friendships. That was so important. But what I wasn't taught early in life was that sometimes you have to be careful about whom you connect with, because sometimes they could take you to a place that you had no intentions of ever going on, or being on a path that you had never been on, because you simply wanted to belong. And so you have to have this inner strength that you are beautiful, that you are enough, that you are an awesome friend, an awesome sister, an awesome lover, whatever that is for you. As long as you know who you are and you're strengthened in that, then the right people will come to you. The right opportunities will come, but you've got to trust the process. And that's always hard when we're trying to move forward, because in that certainty of unknown, as we spoke of earlier, that fear kicks in, and it's like, well, what if they don't like me? What if I don't do well on this job? What if I don't do well with this new opportunity? I always say, instead of worrying about failing, think of yourself as what would happen if I would simply fly, if I would simply just soar and just operate in my gifts, operate in my talents, meet the right person, have the right relationships, find the right job. Those are the things that you should focus on, not worrying about what other people will say. Because, as I said before, sometimes when you outgrow certain people, the jealousy kicks in, and so you've got to decide, you know what, I'm going to move forward because there is something greater in store for me, and I'm willing to see and be open to receive all that the world has to give. And then step 4 in moving forward, simply enjoy this life. You know, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I always attributed my age to a certain success status that I should have at a certain age. Like, for example, I remember when I was in my 20s, I said, you know, by the time I'm 25, I want to, you know, live in this house, have this car, live, you know, have this job. And then by the time I'm 30, I want to do this. By the time I'm 40, I want to do this. And what I failed to realize, in the midst of planning everything based on where I am in my age, I was missing the moments along the way. I was missing the lessons that the world was trying to teach me simply because I wanted to put myself in this perfect little box because I thought that is what would attribute to a perfect life. But let me tell you, life is full of adventures. Life is full of ups and downs, and they will come. Life is not going to be, you know, frolicking through the fields. You know, life is about lessons that we must learn along the way. And in those moments where we make the wrong turns, we've got to assess at that moment, what is the lesson that I need to learn so that I don't make that same mistake again? And once I let go of trying to just plan everything out in my life, then I was really able to live and enjoy my life. And so because of that, I have more joy with my family, with my children, with my husband, with my loved ones. I have more joy in the relationships that I built. I have more joy bringing to you, my listening audience, amazing stories for women across the globe of how they inspire others every day. And it is my hope that each time that you hear this episode of Inspiring Nations, that you are inspired to do more in your communities, that you are inspired to reach back and bring someone up, or just perform a random act of kindness and pass it forward. Because when it's all said and done in this life, and I'm sure you have heard it, the two most important dates, you know, they say is your birth and then your death. Those are the two dates we get in life, but it's that dash that's in between is what we can control. And so in that dash moment in your life right now, you are living in a dash. So what is it that you'll do differently with your life? What is it that you will inspire to do that brings you joy? Whom will you forgive? Will you challenge yourself to step out of the box and fully live to the fullest potential that you are already equipped with? And then when it's all said and done, will you be okay with being your authentic self, being who you were created to be? We are all so uniquely different in so many ways, but that's what makes this world so much better. And we've got to get back to that place where that childlike mindset where, you know, as a child, you know, they don't have those fears. You know, everything to them is an adventure. They're willing to try anything because they're not set up yet with all of the rules that you must do this first and that second and that third. We've got to start living like that, because if you were to die tomorrow, if someone came to you and said your life would end tomorrow, how different would you live your life? Would you move forward? Or would you allow yourself to continue to stay in that state where you used to be because you aren't comfortable with being uncomfortable? And so I hope that this message today just inspires you and moves you to be greater than you've ever felt before. And I felt it was important to share because, you know, I have been where you have been. I've had moments, and sometimes still have them, where something knocks me off my feet and sets me back. But then I remember, you know, if I get another chance to wake up the next day and live and see another day, then that means my story has yet been told. And so I want to challenge each and every one of you to write your story, write your new chapters. You can begin again. It is not too late. You haven't made so many mistakes that you can't live a new day and write a new story and really let it unfold so that you can truly allow your gifts to be seen across the world. Had I allowed the past to dictate my future, we wouldn't have this show, Inspiring Nations. I wouldn't be on radio telling you and sharing this message of hope, love, and faith that you can too be who you need to be and all that God has created you to be. And so I want to thank you so much for just hearing my call and hearing the challenge that you too must move forward. Because when you do that, you begin to just see just how amazing this life is. And then when this life is over, I don't want you to live with any regrets. I want you to say, I lived my life exactly the way I wanted it. And because of it, I am so much happier. I have more joy, and I continue to hope to inspire others every single day, because that is what I hope that I do for you. I hope that I can inspire you each and every day, because for me, that's where I get the joy, when I see and hear from my listeners how they were inspired by my message or inspired by my guests who come on each week and share their stories. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you too will find your gifts, operate in your full joy, and celebrate every victory along the way. Thank you so much for listening, for this is another edition of Inspiring Nations. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Inspiring Nations with Sonja Keeve Radio Show. I challenge each of you to perform one simple act of kindness and pass it forward. For more information on how you can be a guest on our show, visit www.sonjakeeve.com. We hope to see you next time.